What is a scene from a TV show that really disturbed you?
Jesse Pinkman's scene with the young boy on the couch in Peekaboo. Knowing that kids live like that hurts me inside. I had a friend whose mom was a crack addict, and looking back I remember so much effed up poo about being at his house.
In Heroes, when Sylar breaks into Claire's home, overpowers her, cuts open her head and rubs his finger along her brain to take her power. All while she is immobilized on the coffee table and unable to die because of her healing ability.
Do-a-day Sylar was such a good bad guy.
The scene where House operates on himself in Season 7.
That one was messed up. Also the episode where the mom suffering from postpartum psychosis smothered her baby in the hospital bed. Her reaction to finding out she killed her baby, and the clip where the dad is holding his dead infant son shatters me every time.
Very true. Honestly, most episodes have at least one moment that makes me cringe from horror. Usually the seizures or the coughing up blood. Also that cold open where the football player begins bashing himself.
Breaking Bad, when Todd killed Andrea in front of Jesse. Made my gut drop to the center of the earth just seeing Jesse scream in pain. Aaron Paul acted the hell out of that scene.
Aaron Paul acted the hell out of that entire series.
When the brother with bipolar breaks down in Ozark. Then when his sister leaves the table in the restaurant and she's driving back and the phone rings and it's her brother, and then it stops ringing and she knows he's dead. Effing wrecked me. The actors were phenomenal in those scenes. So good. Such a good series too. I felt heavy and drained and so traumatized after these episodes. I have never felt like that after anything. But seeing that guy effing nailed that meltdown was quite incredible. Yeesh, I actually had to turn on an episode of Modern Family after to lighten the mood after it.
It was a Criminal Minds episode where a guy was kidnapping blonde teenagers as a substitute for his sister-in-law who he loved. He would tie them up and torture them with sulfuric acid. I was watching the episode on my iPad, and when it went to commercial I caught my reflection in the screen. I looked so mortified, and I think I ended up just reading the wiki summary. That absolutely batpoo insane episode of X-Files with the inbred family living on the farm that had sex with their deformed, amputee mother, helped her give birth, and buried the dead fetuses in the backyard. Edit. Episode is called Home and it's with the Peacock family. Had to dig that one out of my repressed memories because that episode scarred me as a kid.
Jesus. Thanks for making me remember the mother's scream and skittering back underneath the bed where she was being stored. F.
There's an episode of Fringe where a guy is trying to bring a dead girl back to life by stealing all of her donated organs back from people, and in one scene he hooks her corpse up to a bunch of ropes he has connected to a machine and makes it do a ballet dance. Awesome scene, really well done, but super effed up.
Was scrolling to see if someone else said Fringe. For me it was that opening scene where one woman had a radioactive DEVICW that made the entire restaurant start bleeding from their eyes, all orifices before exploding. It was just so startling and weirdly unavoidable.
MASH, when the lady killed her baby so the enemy wouldn't hear it and kill everyone on the bus. Hawkeye tried to convince himself it was a chicken in his mind but finally admitted it, as he was the one who told her to keep the baby quiet.
I oddly think about this scene multiple times a year. And I'm not even a MASH fan.
In The Tudors. The botched execution of Thomas Cromwell because Henry Cavill got the executioner drunk. 7 or 8 tries to kill a man promised a clean death was pretty chilling. History tells us that was pretty close to how it happened too.
Dude, back then, you wanted the executioner sober and well paid.
Ramsay Bolton setting his dogs on Valda and his baby brother. It was pretty just when that's how he died as well, but man, that was rough. The bent neck lady subplot of The Haunting of Hill House.
The seemingly endless RP scene in Outlander. You all know the one I mean.
This was the most disturbing thing I've ever seen.
Hannibal. Scene where guy is cutting off chunks of his face and feeding it to his dogs.
Hannibal is full of incredibly disturbing scenes. The angel wings, the art, in the silo where the guy peels off his own skin, the man, Sabretooth. That's such a underrated, effed up show.
The Sopranos RP scene.
Of all the scenes in The Sopranos, this is one of the only ones I don't want go back and re-watch. Along with when Ralph kills the stripper.
I was 12-ish and watching an episode of CSI at home with my best friend. I hadn't seen many episodes, but this episode was about a missing child. The mother was heartbroken, had kept his room exactly as it was the day he went missing. Well, it turned out that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis and had murdered him and buried him in the backyard. She was devastated when they proved she had murdered him, as she had no memory of it. My mum was suffering from severe postpartum depression at that time after having my younger brother and had been in and out of the hospital. That episode was so extremely disturbing, upsetting, and terrifying to me, I felt like I had been physically punched in the stomach. I found the mum's story so profoundly sad, but also couldn't get the fear of that story out of my head for a long time. ETA, oh my goodness, thank you for the awards and upvotes. Perinatal mental health is something that I'm super passionate about now. I'm a labor and delivery nurse now, and every single one of my patients gets a talk before discharge about things to be concerned about, when to seek help, the stigma of perinatal anxiety, depression, etc. Check in on people that you know who are pregnant, had a baby, and partners too, and please reach out for help if you think it's a problem for you.
I haven't watched CSI in many years, but I still clearly remember that episode. That last shot of the episode with the mom hallucinating her son alive and joyfully reaching out to him as she's being taken away to prison or whatever was gutting.
The last scene in the second episode of Chernobyl, where they have to go into the water. I hated that so much. And the view from halfway down from BoJack Horseman. I was not ready for that emotionally. Edited to add. I think Time's Arrow might be my favorite episode in the show, which a lot of people have brought up. But it never really hit me as disturbing. For me, that episode added an entire extra world to that series, but it wasn't disturbing. I also loved Stupid Piece of Poo, just because the writing is just brilliant.
Those guys all lived in real life, if it makes it any better. But yeah, that was nerve-wracking.
When Buffy finds her mom dead. For a show full of crazy supernatural elements, that moment was just so realistic and relatable for so many people.
When she is on the phone to 911, she's cold, should I make her warm, oh man. I cry every time. The X-Files episode, Home.
My husband had never seen an episode of X-Files. It comes on some station one afternoon, and he decides to watch. What episode do you suppose it was? Home. I could never convince him that the whole show wasn't like this, and to this day he refuses to even be in the room if X-Files is on.
Homelander giving up on the hijacked plane in The Boys. Just such dread from the people knowing they're about to die.
When Lady Sybil dies shortly after giving birth in Downton Abbey. It's one of the most violent deaths I've ever seen on television. And the way her whole family is surrounding her, pleading for her to live, and there's absolutely nothing they can do.
Sybil was my favorite character. That scene destroyed me. I cried the whole time.
Wallace's murder on the wire.
The episode of Breaking Bad where Pinkman finds the little redhead kid in the meth house.
The thing that kills me the most about that episode is when the kid gets up all by himself and turns on the TV, then just sits there. That is that kid's life. And #X200B. Not only that, but the kid is unfazed by Jesse being there because he's used to Get Out strangers being over at the house. And #X200B. The mom using him as a shield, accessory is a close second. The whole thing is so F-ed.
Breaking Bad, when the kid on the bicycle, dirt bike, discover Walt, Jesse and Todd were performing the train heist and Walt and Jesse are stunned and don't know what to do, so Todd takes over and kills the kid. Definitely a turning point when Jesse realizes just how far over his head he is in, and his existence is pure dread and only gets worse, as it does for them all.
It was made even more shocking because that episode in general was relatively light-hearted up to that point, with the three of them working perfectly together to rob a train without anyone knowing it was happening. They get away with it and everyone is celebrating, and then everything falls apart in the span of about 10 seconds.
In The Boys, anytime Homelander drinks milk. I was literally squeamish at those scenes, and I never am bothered by movies.
The one that disturbed me was when he just starts lasering a crowd full of people. Turns out it was just in his head, but it really spells out how terrifying he is as a character.
Oberon's head on got. Yuck.
I was negotiating with myself during that scene. When the mountain smashes his teeth out, and I'm like, well, he's a little effed up, but he could survive that. Then it was like, well, now he's blind, that's not good, but he could make it. Then finally it was, nope, he's dead.
So there's this episode of House where a gunman comes and takes a bunch of hostages and wants medical treatment, but he wants all of the DG tested on someone else first so he knows they aren't just trying to trick him. Being self-destructive, 13 volunteers, and takes all of the DG the patient needs to take. There's a scene at the end where they've found their answer and the D that will save the gunman, but taking it will kill 13. 13 sits there with the syringe to her arm and a gun to her head, knowing that she's going to die. The only choice she gets is if she's going to kill herself or let the gunman kill her. Olivia Wilde's acting was spot on. 13's realization that she doesn't want to die after spending the whole episode martyring herself is haunting.
Scrubs, My Lunch, where Dr. Cox loses 4 patients. Just rips your heart apart, but also shows the epic quality of acting within the show.
And he only pulls out of it because JD tells him he would have made the same call, and that if he is still this upset about his patients dying, then that means he is a good doctor, and that's how JD wants to be in the future. Such a great show.
The scene, episode of Chernobyl with the soldier assigned to hunt pets abandoned by evacuees, when he whistles and all the dogs come running.
Game of Thrones, when the direwolf's head sewn to Rob's body was shown. I felt sick.
The moment that Theon becomes Reek. Also the moment when Marty gets his toenails ripped off in Ozark.
Orange is the New Black, Season 4, where Poussey was killed by a CO by suffocation during the cafeteria riot.
The scene in Shameless where the mom slits her wrists. My mother committed suicide and I was the one who found her. Definitely had a terrible flashback. Edit. If anyone is struggling with mental health or just needs someone to talk to, I'm always here for you.
Once she excused herself from the dinner table, I knew what she was about to do. It triggered crazy amounts of PTSD for me. I'm so sorry for your loss. I found my dad when he did it years later.
Right. My heart sank.
That scene in The Simpsons when Homer's eyes crust over completely.
Game of Thrones. Talisa getting stabbed in her pregnant belly in the Red Wedding episode.
The infamy of that episode kind of underplays how disturbing and cruel it felt. I was in shock for a couple days afterwards. Honestly, the RP scene in Rick and Morty was pretty unsettling. Didn't see it coming at all.
Glad Rick shot him.
SpongeBob SquarePants' House Fancy episode. Specifically, the part where SpongeBob dropped the leg of a sofa on Squidward's foot and pulled it back, ripping what appeared to be a toenail out of his foot.
Gemma using that fork on Tara in Sons of Anarchy.
I was just thinking it was either this or the scene where those dudes kill Opie in that prison fight.
BoJack Horseman. Season 4, Episode 11, Times Arrow. The entire episode. There wasn't a single laugh in that episode. Not one time I effing moved my face. Not one time I wasn't glued to the screen. I really don't want to give it away. But BoJack had every reason to tell off his mother at the end, but he didn't, and given everything we saw prior to that ending, it somehow felt right. I'm never watching that episode again though. Once was enough.
The moment from BoJack that sticks with me the most is when Secretariat reads The View from halfway down. Especially as BoJack is starting to freak out himself, and Secretariat is just full-blown panicking as he reads the poem.
Breaking Bad Season 2. Jesse witnesses a man's head explode as an ATM machine is dropped on it.
Fear factor when the contestants had to eat all these live-ass bugs off of a rope covered in honey hanging from the ceiling of a greenhouse. Then they had to spit em out, blend em, and drink em. There were these giant green caterpillar-looking things, they shot out massive juice when they bit em. I'm usually all for the gross stunt, but that one stuck out in my head as the first one to make me retch. Edit, here I am talking about Fear Factor and y'all listing some wild-ass poo lol. I should have read the comments and checked the temp in the room first, I didn't know it was this kind of party.
Dexter walking into the bathroom to see his screaming baby sitting in his wife's overflowing blood made me angry. Carol telling Lizzie to look at the flowers stunned me for about 10 minutes. Locutus of the Borg showing up on the screen broke my heart and made me cry.
Oh my god, I forgot about that Walking Dead episode. That episode was effed up.
Breaking Bad, where Walter let Jesse's girlfriend Jane die by choking on her own vomit in her sleep. He could have so easily saved her. Edit, although there were plenty of shocking moments, this was the real turning point in the series for me. This marked the point when his character and the series got really dark. Bad guys killing good guys and good guys killing bad guys is pretty standard fare. However, when a character that you thought was a pretty good guy kills someone who was basically a good guy or at least not a bad guy, that's always disturbing, especially in this case, somehow.
Ooh, good one, that was super rough. Breaking Bad had so many moments like that. What was Crazy 8's a henchman's name? Totally bonding with him and then the bike lock. Awful and intense.
The pig scene from Black Mirror's national anthem. For those who don't know, the Prime Minister was blackmailed into having sex with a pig on national television in order for terrorists to release a princess they kidnapped. Icing on the trash cake? She was released 30 minutes before he had sex with the pig and he had no idea.
Especially the fact that she was released 2 hours before. He can never know this.
When Debbie's dumbass fell asleep and dropped her baby, Shameless, US version.
Episode 4 of Fullmetal Alchemist, Brotherhood. I've had so many friends rage quit the show after watching it.
That Futurama episode where Seymour the dog waits for Fry for years in the elements. It disturbed me because there are animals out there that are ridiculously loyal to humans who in turn treat them like trash.
The TWD season opener with Negan having Rick Grimes and company on their knees and bashed Glenn and Abraham. IWASNT ready.
House had quite a few of them, like when he performed surgery on his leg and Kutner's suicide. But the episode *Broken*, which is probably my favorite episode in the series, has this one scene that really stands out for me. In the episode, House is institutionalized because he was starting to hallucinate due to the Vicodin abuse. He is of course the same person he was outside of those walls, super arrogant and manipulative. He tries to play the system so hard throughout the episode, so he can be released sooner, but Captain Holt Dr. Nolan is on to him. During his time there he meets a guy who is suffering delusions after he lost his wife on 9/11, where he thinks he is this superhero named Freedom Master. His is very manic at the beginning, but is soon broken down by one of the doctors to a near catatonic state, which House really hates. House seizes an opportunity to steal him away and take him on an unforgettable trip to cure him of his depression. They go to a carnival, where together experience simulated flight in the form of one of those powerful fans that make it seem like you're flying. House wanted to make him feel like a superhero again and bring out that happy person he met when he first came in. And he succeeds. Freedom Master is back and ecstatic as could be. The problem is that he slipped back into his delusion and now was convinced he could actually fly. So, as they are leaving the carnival, he jumps off the parking structure and nearly dies. This was something that House never saw coming, because he thought that he had cured him. It's such a sad and extremely powerful scene, but also disturbing because it really shows the true depth of what it's like to battle with mental illness. You don't just magically snap your fingers and it's gone. House was used to problems that had simple solutions and treatments as long as you found out what the initial problem was, but there are some things that aren't as easy.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.